next. We begin in Ukraine, where the capital, Kyiv, has experienced one of its worst nights of the war with Russia so far. Hundreds of drones and ballistic missiles rained down on the city, with damage reported right across the capital. President Zelensky called the attacks deliberately massive and cynical. The footage captures the moment a drone exploded in Kyiv's residential area. Ukraine's Air Force says a record 550 drones and 11 missiles were fired. Dozens of them broke through Ukraine's air defences. Authorities say almost every district of the city was damaged. At least 14 people are reported to have been injured. The attacks happened just hours after President Trump spoke to Russia's President Putin on the phone. Mr. Trump told reporters he didn't make any progress towards a ceasefire.
We had a call. It was a pretty long call. We talked about a lot of things, including Iran. And we also talked about, as you know, the war with Ukraine. And I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy about that. No, I didn't make any progress with them today at all.
Well, let's go straight to Kyiv now, and our diplomatic correspondent Paul Adams. Paul, welcome to you. Describe the scenes there overnight.
There was a long old night. It started before darkness and continued really until just around dawn. And it was pretty relentless. Waves of drones, we could hear them coming over the city, hour after hour. The air defenses were very, very active, and it is a testament to their effectiveness that no one was killed as a result of these attacks. And then we also had a number of large explosions. When we came up here this morning, the city was covered in a thick black pall of smoke, and there was a heavy acrid smell in the air, which is only really now dissipating. We're not quite sure what that was coming from, but we know that there were fires in a number of locations. So this was, yet another reminder for the citizens of this city that Russia's tactics have not changed at all.
Yeah, and Paul, President Zelensky called the attacks deliberately massive and cynical, and they came just hours after President Trump's call with President Putin, which we heard him say that he didn't make any progress at all.
I thought Donald Trump sounded especially bleak about that phone call yesterday. It's hard to gauge Donald Trump's mood and, more importantly, his intentions moving forward. But he did sound as though he'd had enough of his dialogue with Vladimir Putin. Of course, there's going to be a conversation possibly as early as today with Volodymyr Zelensky, and President Zelensky's message will be a number of things. One, can you tell me more about this pause in the supply of American military equipment to Ukraine, because the details of that are still very unclear, and also that it is up to you, the United States, to do more to change Russia's behavior. At the end of his statement this morning, President Zelensky said that there have to be more sanctions. This is the only way to bring about real rapid change. And this depends, he said, on our partners, above all the United States. President Zelensky will have seen the reports that far from drawing up new sanctions proposals, the Trump administration actually seems to be letting some of the sanctions slide, with the effect that there's actually less pressure on Russia being brought to bear by the Americans than there was before.
OK, Paul Adams in Kyiv, thank you. We can get more on this with Chris York now, news operations editor at the Kyiv Independent, who joins us from the capital. Welcome to you. Good to have you with us. Tell us about your experiences during the night there.
Well, it wasn't very pleasant at all. I think the air raid siren started quite early yesterday evening, and then you could hear the air defences working in distance. And then as Russia sent more and more of these kamikaze drones, they started getting through. So I was just sat in my hallway for hours just listening to these drones flying over. And I think it's worth reminding viewers that these aren't these small FPV hobby drones. They are 3 meters long, 2.5 meters wide, carry 70 kilos of explosives. And hearing them flying over your flat and then exploding, being blown out of the sky is not a very nice experience at all.
Yeah, Chris, as we're talking to you, we're looking at pictures of some of those explosions overnight. Have you managed to go outside yet to see the extent of the damage?
I mean, I've come to the office to work. I didn't jump into the sites of the attacks. We've got reporters there now. But the one thing that was totally noticeable to everybody this morning was just the smell of burning in the air. It's definitely, in terms of the amount of fire and damage, like one of the worst attacks on Kyiv of the full-scale war so far.
Yeah, President Zelensky is due to hold a talk, isn't he, with President Trump in the coming hours. He described these attacks as deliberately cynical. What is the feeling there, the mood in Kyiv about any hopes of progress over a ceasefire and peace talks?
There's little hope, I think. A lot of skepticism. Russia, with these mass missile and drone attacks, they're usually very predictable, and they almost always do them on a weekend, a Saturday or a Sunday early hours. So the fact that they did it on a Thursday and the air raid sirens might have off after Trump and Putin had hung up the phones, but they must have been launched likely during the phone call or before it. It was a very, very deliberate message from Russia that they have no respect for any peace process and they are not going to stop until they've achieved what they've been trying to set out since February 2022.
Yeah, and when you bear that in mind and the extent of the death toll there in Ukraine, what's the sense of how this evolves going forward now, especially with this pause in the delivery of munitions from the US?
It's pretty bleak. I remember in December, we were talking about a surge in these drone attacks. And at that time, we were seeing around 2,000 of them a month being launched. We were asking then, how bad can this get? June was a record, and it was over 5,000 of them. And Russia is only producing more and more of these drones and more missiles. And Ukraine, it appears, is getting fewer and fewer air defenses to combat them with. So, yeah, it's a really bleak picture at the moment here. Everyone is especially tired today, but just in general as well. There is just a real kind of sense of like how bad things can get here.
OK, Chris York, thank you very much for joining us from Kyiv.